Good morning, grand rising, you beautiful people. It is Friday, the 30th of May, 2025. I'm so glad it's Friday. I'm literally so glad it's Friday. I don't know about you, but I am knackered. I'm knackered, but it's all right because I've still got plenty of energy for today's show. Welcome to Wake Up with Sonia Poulton and guests. How are you? Lovely to have you with us. Wonderful to have you with us. Welcome to the show that knows we have entered a world whereby we can't believe the evidence of our own eyes. The question is, was this deliberate or accidental? I say the former. What say you? How are you in the chat this morning? Happy Friday, everybody. Beasley and Peter and Drumstick and Dr. Robert and Ray J and Brett and Carly. Morning all. Morning all. How are you all? And Louise. Border. Beautiful people. Border. Hello, Jan. How are you all? What is on Wake Up today? Well, let me see. We will be joined by Joy Warren from the Fluoride Free Alliance. We've also got Graham Moore with us. He from the English Constitution. And we're going to be talking about the potential for election fraud. That's going to get interesting. Yes, indeed it is. And geopolitical journalist Warren Thornton is back on X and back with us. Great to have him with us. And the Liverpool driver has been charged. The Tates have been charged. The US and the UK will be looking at more online content moderation. The UK is looking to ban non-stun slaughter. And I will tell you exactly why that will not happen. But you can probably already guess. And I want to end with you are your only competition. People often forget that really the truth is that we're set to compete against each other, which oftentimes is really unhealthy because I see myself as the only competition. I have to just keep beating myself each time. I want to, and by beating myself, I don't mean beating myself up, obviously. I mean improving and developing. That's the way I want to go. So we're going to end with that. And happy birthday for tomorrow to our dear darling Mel's. I don't know if she's yet in the comments. She is normally, but it's her birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, Mel's. Lovely to always have you with us. We truly appreciate it. Yes, indeed we do. And if you fancy a bit of weather gaslighting to begin your day, the Met Office tells us that the UK has experienced its sunniest spring since records began. What absolute hogwash. There's no way. Because I tell you when the sunniest spring was on that I can recall was actually 2020. Does anyone remember how glorious it was when they locked us down? Absolutely glorious. You are welcome, Mel's. You are welcome, Poppet. Happy birthday to you. You're a star. And Beasley is cleaning but listening. Sounds great to me. I actually enjoy cleaning. I do. I actually do. I find it quite cathartic. And Marco said COVID was the best weather we've ever had. I think so too. Yeah, Peter. What's going on? Seriously hot in 77. Remember it. Remember it. I do. I was 13 years old. We were like it was a drought. It was actually a proper drought. Yeah, it was not that thing that they keep talking about. Just want to say before we proceed, thank you, Fred. You are a star to tickle my algorithm. Thank you for that super chat. You're a star. Medical misinformation. And I think one of the greatest headaches for us around here, certainly for me, because I don't want to be censored, is I have to watch what I say when it comes to issues of anything to do with medical, because it gets flagged under YouTube's community medical misinformation. And the very first strike that I received was for reporting on excess deaths. And the problem is you get a strike, you can't post. That means I wouldn't be able to post to YouTube. I had my film, The Business of Cancer, removed on here. But the good news, because it's really frustrating. The very good news is that I have been in touch with YouTube's legal team, and we are closing in and actually discovering there is an active campaign to silence this channel. Yes, there is. I knew it anyway, but now we've got the legals involved. Yes, because you can report people on YouTube. Yes, you can. What you can't do is report them over and over and over and over and over again, obsessively and vexatiously, because that then becomes an issue, and that then becomes a legal issue. And that is what I'm closing in on. But having said all of that, and this is really important, the Rumble channel, The details for the Rumble channel is in the description below, because there, even with all of that, it is still going to be difficult to talk about certain things. And we know that the C19 jab is one of them. Look, I get it. There are some channels, oddly enough, on this platform that can get away with huge amounts of stuff. And one of them being Nurse John Campbell. For some reason, he's able to get away with huge amount of stuff that us lesser mortals can't. And but hopefully that will change. They better not do anything to your channel, says Robert. Well, let's hope not. But we do need to start thinking about moving over to Rumble to a certain degree, kids. Yes, we do. Right. Let's look at this. Liverpool car ramming, which many witnessed on social media, is now subject to live proceedings as the man has been charged. I'm sure you know who he is already. Paul Doyle from West Derby on Merseyside will appear in Liverpool Magistrates Court this morning, charged with 1 count of dangerous driving alongside 2 counts each of causing grievous bodily harm with intent, wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, and attempting to cause grievous bodily harm with intent. According to police and legacy media press reports, he is a 53-year-old former Marine commander who is married with 3 teenage children and lives in a smart 300,000 4-bedroom detached property on a neat estate. As if any of us need to know any of that. That was actually front page news yesterday. Literally front page news. Who cares? Who cares? Mr. Doyle was arrested after a Ford Galaxy people carrier ploughed through a crowd of fans in Liverpool city centre this week on Bank Holiday Monday, leaving some 79 people injured, with 50 needing hospital treatment. The youngest victim was just 9 and the eldest 78, with all victims believed to be British. It emerged today. And again, I'm not sure why they feel the need to put out that information. On Monday's show, I actually made a comment about how racists and those who seek to divide us salivate at these events and then say nothing when the person is not the ethnicity they want to give a good kicking to. And lo and behold, it then happened literally hours later. The same meatheads rushed to make comments, including Joey Barton and Lawrence Fox and the like. But then they don't have the same response when it was revealed that the man was white. Lots of PR for the man this week, by the way, when racists on social media realized he was white, when legacy media realized he was white. It literally was like a PR campaign. We don't need to know about how many children he has, whether he holds down a good job, what is his... No, we don't. All we need to know is what he's done. Absolutely that. Absolutely that. And there is this really weird kind of washing that takes place. It really is. And I think that what we've seen this week is the best of humanity and the absolute worst. And the best was when I saw so many Liverpudlians online on Monday offering free transportation, free places for people to stay, Wi-Fi usage, really, really good stuff. And the worst of humanity are the likes of Lawrence Fox, and all he was interested in was info on the driver before it was revealed that the driver was white. And, you know, the thing is, I love Liverpool. And one of the reasons I love Liverpool is they really band together in times of attack. They don't take it, right? I've seen it before. I saw it when Boris Johnson attacked Liverpool. I mean, we have seen it repeatedly. We saw it when Kelvin Mackenzie and Rupert Murdoch attacked Liverpool and lied about Hillsborough. And the Sun newspaper has never recovered in Liverpool. And then we've seen it again this week with the comedian Andrew Lawrence, who made his quote unquote joke about how if he was in Liverpool, he'd kind of, like, I'm paraphrasing him, he'd drive through people to get out of there as well. And I appreciate he's a comedian, right? And I appreciate they should be edgy. But also the thing about comedians is timing. It's timing. And the day after, when it's still unknown whether people are alive or dead, is probably very, very poor timing. But anyway, they've banded together against him as well. And some people say this is cancel culture. We shouldn't be supporting this. But I really want to know really what you think. Should we be banning comedians? Should we? Or should we just let comedians do their thing? Because now Andrew Lawrence has found himself on the receiving end of a lot of cancel culture, including at the Comedy Store in London. They've cancelled him as well. And I'm not really sure whether we should be overstepping the mark like that. That's just kind of like my personal take on it. Before I bring in lovely Graham Moore, just want a big shout out to Bob Moran's exhibition. Absolutely brilliant. Paradigm. Obviously, we were there live on Wednesday. It's now extending until Monday. It was going to end today, but it's now extending until Monday. It was great streaming from there on Wednesday. And I'm sorry about some of the sound quality, but until I can afford a full team, we will have to make do. And really what I should have done is I should have plugged my Wi-Fi into the gallery Wi-Fi, particularly when I went downstairs, because that was where my own mobile was kind of like cutting out and struggling. But nonetheless, I absolutely loved it, enjoyed it thoroughly, great response to it. And I loved this very much. This is from lovely Adamski on Twitter, X. And that's very kind of you. And there's an image of me and Bob, two legendary freedom fighters during the live stream under Bob's brilliant Not Our Future. And super cool place you got there, Adamski. Super cool place. And if you're able, I highly recommend you go there. Thank you, Paul. You're a star. You're an absolute star. Right. Before we go any further, I think we need to bring in our first guest. Let's do it. Here he is. Good morning, Graham Moore from the English Constitution. How are you, Graham?
Good morning, and thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Now, let me just, we'll keep on talking, but it may be that we have to turn you down slightly. Well, I can't turn you down. You might have to do that yourself. And ban globalist British MPs, says George. Right. I can see that we're already getting there. Anything's better than the tourism reform. Got you. The Constitution is the solution, says Truth Crusader. Graham, how are you this morning?
I'm very well, thank you. Looking forward to this interview, considering that our court case is blacklisted or denoticed or whatever you want to describe it as. So I do believe that the people should understand what's going on in the background.
They absolutely should. And first of all, big shout out to your team. Absolutely brilliant, very professional. Love dealing with them. Thank you so much. You guys, you're a credit to Graham. Yes, you are indeed. Now, let us talk about what you've been experiencing. You're going through something. Allegations of election fraud. This is very serious. You stood in Runcorn and Helsby with the English Constitution Party at the beginning of May, and you are alleging election tampering going on. You filed a claim with the High Court. Graham, this is some serious stuff going on here. Talk us through it. Tell us what's going on.
It is very serious. And just before I do say that, if communism, socialism, fascism is so fantastic, why do they have to cheat at elections? That's really what I want to know. So what's actually happened is, obviously we stood in Runcorn and Helsby. We had two reasonably large action days or campaign days. There's lots of other bits and pieces. We also had our leaflets, which were pre-approved by the Royal Mail, by law, by the way, and they have to be set out in a certain way, and they have to say on those leaflets, election communication. Well, it turns out the Royal Mail tell us we delivered the leaflets, and lots of our supporters, and there are lots of them, have made witnesses statements to say we didn't receive them leaflets, although we received lots of other parties' leaflets, but none of ours. So again, you've got a situation now. There are three different people, if you want to call it that are part of this election petition. The biggest one is this. I'll explain it to the audience. At the count, and again, I'm a candidate at the count. We've also got count agents. Anyone out there knows anything about elections, you're put there for legal reasons to keep an eye on the count. And as I walk around, for example, I have seen two bundles, because they bundle by-election and general election ballots into 50s, and they clip them and then they move them away from the edge and put them in the middle. That's where you lose sight of them. But I personally witnessed two bundles of 50 and another group of ballots where I estimate it to be 16. Now, bear in mind, there's only 6 votes in it between Labour and obviously Reform. The point being, when the return is announced, we've got 50 votes. And I've personally witnessed more than that. There's only 6 votes in it. But here's the kicker, people. When I stood in Tooting in South London, a mile away from where I was born, do you all remember when Sadiq Khan become the mayor of London? He had to stand down as a Labour MP. And I stood in that constituency. And guess what? I got exactly 50 votes.
Wait, what?
Exactly. And it gets worse, to be fair. I then done some calculations of my own and worked out that that's 40,000 elections to 1. It would take me somewhere in the region. So 40,000 elections to 1 as the odds. It would take me somewhere in the region of 400 years of elections. So it's an impossibility to receive exactly 50 votes in Tooting and exactly 50 votes in Runcorn and Helsby.
Sounds almost like you were capped.
Well, exactly that. And someone from the Royal Statistical Society has come forward and said, Graham, you're wrong. So I said, okay, explain where I'm wrong. And they did mathematically. And they said it's 1 million to 1, not 40,000 to 1. This is a complete impossibility. And it proves that there is, at the very least, an error with the count, which you're not allowed to have, or fraud. So again, we have now put in a petition. So within 21 days, if you know there's been an irregularity, you have to put in a petition, or you can. And it costs a lot of money, by the way, even though justice should be free in this country. And bearing in mind, we are the English Constitution Society that go around the country doing seminars on the English Constitution, and also the English Constitution Party. We can't leave this, right?
Fair point. Absolutely. Because if you're not going to take it on, then who the hell is, right?
Exactly.
This is literally your domain now, isn't it? This is your territory now.
Exactly. And people must understand it's what's known as a private right injury. That means it is your right to vote. You have universal suffrage. What that means is you have passive suffrage, which is the candidate, and active suffrage, which is the electors. Remember that I was assented by 10 individuals to stand in Runcorn and Helsby. So 10 individuals from that constituency signed a document to say we want Graham Moore to stand. Right. So I had more right to be in that election than the people that were actually counting the votes. In other words, what I'm saying is they wasn't assented to anything. They was appointed. And there is a point about this. Stalin himself said it's not who votes in an election, it's who counts the votes that count, right? So you're seeing obvious cheating. But just to make sure I'm clear on this, if you go back to the general election where we stood 4 candidates in 2024, just up the road in Lancashire in a place called Chorley, I've got 1,007 votes. So one of the reasons why this is important, it may not change, or it may change, who was returned in the election, but what it will do is show people that every count, Ashby versus White 1703, constitutional law, it shows that every single count stands and must be recorded and recorded in law properly, because it is your right. Right. And they're interfering with democracy. There's 2 other elements to it. One is the Royal Mail. So there's 3 people that are named on the election petition, just to let people know.
Yeah.
It's already been accepted by the court. We've paid thousands of pounds as a deposit. The election petition has been served, and so issued by the High Court. It has been served on the candidate, which is obviously Sarah Poulton. It has been served on the Royal Mail CEO. It has been served on the count, obviously the returning officer. Yeah. And it has also been served on the Chief Constable, because they was interfering with our campaign.
Serious.
Now,
So just to say, Graham, so I just want to make sure that we're absolutely clear here. And that is 4 people in very significant positions of power are now subject to this high court. And it's an order I see in front of me, actually. Right. So, OK, so let's be clear about that. So that's Emma Gilthorpe, Mark Roberts, who is the Chief Constable of Cheshire Constabulary, Sarah Joanne Poulton, is that how you pronounce her name? She's the MP,
yeah.
and Stephen Young, the returning officer. Right. Okay. I just want to be clear about that. Fine. Continue, please, Graham.
So the basis of it is this has been issued by the High Court, and I'll explain a bit more about that. And it's also been served. We've now had one of the respondents come back trying to change. So Emma Gilthorpe, by the way, the CEO of Royal Mail Limited, trying to take her personal name off of the petition and just put what's known as the legal fiction, which is the Royal Mail Limited, on the petition. Bear in mind, her stepfather is a 40-year Tory peer, right? So it shows how incestuous these big businesses are and politics, etc. So this is really important for normal everyday people.
Who is he?
It's again, the more people understand what's gone on, and again, I'll go back to the original comment, right? So the English, right, and bearing in mind, and I must say this to everyone listening to this, anyone who knows me knows I'm about the rule of law and the Constitution of England and our superb legal history over 1100 years. Nowhere in the English Constitution does it mention race or the color of your skin? Nowhere, right? So when people, they're always attacking the English, and I laugh at them and say, listen, we're one of the only constitutions in the world. For example, Liberia, who has a constitution, it actually states in an African constitution that you can only be a citizen of their country if you are a Negro.
Interesting.
And I'm like, we don't say that, but it's their business. It's not my business. I'm not interested. But what I'm trying to say to people out there is we love everyone. We get on with everyone. Why are we being oppressed and suppressed? And it's because of the common law jurisdiction. And it's because of our constitution. Because it's the fairest.
I mean, you do get tarred and feathered. I know that. And I believe that everybody has a right to be heard. And certainly somebody who's working as hard as you are, for goodness sake. Just to go back, I don't know if you heard me. Who is that peer who is related to the CEO of the post office? Do you know? Because I'd love to look into them a little bit deeper.
If you research Emma Gilthorpe, CEO of Royal Mail Limited, right?
Like there's loads of different names for them. Right.
It comes straight up and it tells you who her stepfather is, and he was a senior Tory. He was a whip. By the way, our party don't have whips because it's unconstitutional.
So, but thank you. I will look that up, absolutely. But you're absolutely right. It shows the incestuous nature, the kind of like ever revolving door, doesn't it? Absolutely. Yeah. You're not part of that in crowd, Graham. Is that why you think you're being dealt with? Because it would appear that there's some kind of problem that has taken place in terms of the count. And so you're part of the out group, aren't you? And so where are we proceeding in terms of the High Court right now? What are they doing? So she tried to take her name off of it, and she wanted the legal fiction of the company on there. Has that failed? Has her name remained? Right.
So currently I've got to make another application today because the judge allowed her to take her name off and put the legal fiction on. What I'm saying is you need both names on there because it's a private right injury, and therefore it's because she's an officer of the corporation. This is all real law, by the way. She is personally responsible for what's gone on with the Royal Mail and the non-delivery of our leaflets. And on the back page of one of them leaflets, it told people about the Criminal Justice Act 1988, Section 134, torture, right? Which means you don't need inquiries for what's going on in the whole of England. You can proceed with the criminal prosecution against the people that have allowed it to happen. They didn't want that message coming through to 45,400 individual houses in Runcorn and Helsby. So just to make sure everyone is aware, there is a directions hearing. So again, I applied for a trial date on application at the time, and there is a direction hearing in the High Court on the 13th of June where all respondents must attend. And by the way, that includes the Department of Public Prosecutions, because this is very serious. What happens is the High Court then set a trial date in the location of, it's a bit like the old assize courts. When this is to do with elections, they take the judges to the area, right? So 2 High Court judges and a registrar, who just happens to be a Supreme Court judge, then go to the Runcorn and Helsby area. They commandeer an area or an office and they create their court, right? And that's where everything comes in. The witnesses come in, the witness statements, etc., and they have to defend their positions. So this is a live election petition. At the end of this, you can have criminal proceedings against whomever is found to be liable. So it's a very serious thing, and the media have completely blacked it out.
Of course, I've received an email from your team just before you came on air, and I'd like to read it. And they've just said, just had a thought regarding the interview this morning. Can Graham do a shout out for anyone living in Runcorn and Helsby? So I'm doing the shout out for you, who hasn't received a leaflet through Royal Mail, to contact this email address, and also anyone from any other constituency to also contact this email address if they are aware of election tampering. I'm going to put the email address in the description below. But if you want it now, it's capital P, capital R _ capital T, EAM team _ capital ECS at proton.me. I will put it in the description below, because it's very important, because obviously these are very, very serious allegations. This is not just election tampering. This is allegations of Royal Mail tampering as well, which is really serious. Obviously, that criminal charges can follow from that. Very serious. And what you're saying is those leaflets contained this information that just simply wasn't delivered to people.
Absolutely correct. And just to make sure, that email address is very important, because every single elector, in other words, the people that were actually voting, we know that we had hundreds, if not, we may have even got our deposit back, because this was a punishment election for the Labour Party. Right?
Yeah. Oh, was it Mike Amesbury? Was that? Yes, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. So he's beat up a constituent. He gets sent to prison for 4 months. He gets released on appeal after 2 days, right? And the people, let me tell you something, but I love Scousers, right? They're just like Londoners, right? I love Scousers. And the most of the area of Runcorn and Helsby, right, are people who have left Liverpool and built their lives in that area. So everyone I was talking to, when you look at our campaign days, people was out in force. The locals was coming out holding our bulbs and cheering us, etc. People loved us. We had people stopping saying, I'm voting for you, right? The point I'm trying to make here is that every single voter in the area that voted for us, and if there's hundreds of you, if you tell us, we can tell the judge, this is how many people say that voted for us, right? And every one of them who didn't have their vote recorded is an offence, and it's called a private right injury. You are entitled to claim against these people for removing your vote from the person that you voted for.
This is important information. Most people, I would imagine, including myself, are not aware of this. It's really important, because tampering, obviously, with an election is a criminal act. Absolutely. And you believe that you and your party are the victims of this. And I think that is interesting in its own right. Graham, obviously, there's never a lot of time available here, unfortunately, but I do want you to have the last word. Tell us what you absolutely want people to know.
100% you need to know that you do have a constitution, you do have constitutional rights, and England And the English is one of the greatest nations in the world. We exported our language, we exported our common law, and we exported our constitution all over the world. All I'm saying to everyone out there, they banned me on virtually every single platform.
No.
And as Sonia said earlier, get yourself over to Rumble. It is the only free speech platform where they allow you free speech. So again, the Constitution is the solution. You need to stand up. Don't forget, if you want us to come along to one of our seminars that we do all over the country, we teach this and actually show you what your constitutional and common law rights are.
And we really should know more. We absolutely should. Graham, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Good luck. You will keep us up to speed with what's going on, won't you? And obviously, as soon as you get news, we would like you to come back on and update us all. Everybody, Graham Moore from the English Constitution Society. Take good care of yourself. Have a good weekend, Graham.
Thank you.
Lovely to see him. He's very passionate about what he does. And I think that's, it is to be admired. It really is. And no, we shouldn't be experiencing election fraud. Obviously, we shouldn't. And at the moment, of course, it's just an allegation. But it will be interesting to see how that develops. Before I bring in my next guest, I want to just quickly refer to this. Parliament debate non-stun slaughter of animals. The UK government are up to their eyeballs and compromised by the two parties who are not by the two parties, by the two groups who are at the center of this. And obviously this will impact Muslims and Jews in the UK, because they are the two groups that slaughter animals without any stunning. I don't eat animals at all. I'd get rid of it all if it was down to me, but that's a whole other story. The petition has now surpassed the 100,000. It will be debated on the 9th of June, 2025. And the government response already concerns me. I think that this is just going to be it's kind of tick box exercise that, yeah, we heard you. Yeah, we saw your petition. 5 of us will rock up in Parliament as they normally do. And actually, the government has responded saying the government would prefer all animals to be stunned before slaughter. However, we respect the rights of Jews and Muslims to eat meat prepared in accordance with their religious beliefs. Guess what? I don't. No, I don't, actually. No. I really don't. First of all, I think that, if you have to do it, you have to do it in the most humane way humanly possible. And let's be clear here. Abattoirs are absolutely horrendous. So this is not an attack on either Muslims or Jews, because some regular abattoirs, they treat animals truly, truly abysmally, really, truly abysmally. And I don't want to make this a preach about not eating meat, because I really, truly believe that is your prerogative. But I can't see the government acting on this. Absolutely not. The interest groups are too great. And we know how compromised the government generally is. It's just a fact of life, people. Just a fact of life. We know it. They're bought and sold. Yes, they are. Let me talk to somebody who isn't bought and sold. Here she is. Joy Warren. How are you, Joy? Hello, Joy. Can you see me? Hello, Joy. I don't. Yep. Hello, Joy. Can you hear me now? Hello, Joy. This is Joy Warren, everybody. I don't know. Hello, Joy. Can you hear me now?
I can. Oh, hang on. I can hear you, yes.
There you go. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know it's hideously early. I appreciate that. You are, of course, Joy Warren from the Fluoride Free Alliance. And it's very interesting what you're up to, Joy. And I'd talk to you, and I talked earlier, I don't know if you heard it, where I was talking about YouTube's medical misinformation policy and how draconian and totalitarian it is, frankly. And you and I had already had that conversation. So we're going to stick to the legal issues of this challenge. And many of our viewers will be savvy enough to understand a great deal about fluoride. Let me reassure you of that. So don't feel that they're missing out, honestly. And so let us talk about this. This is a legal group challenge. Where would you like to start, Joy?
Oh, right. Well, after so many decades of not being able to get anywhere with gentle persuasion, talking to the government, talking to local authorities, although we did actually stop quite a few schemes going ahead, we just couldn't get the government to listen at all. And it seems to be a running policy, no matter which government is in. The establishment seems to be telling the governments they have to have fluoridation in the drinking water because it prevents dental decay. That's actually reduced now down to about 3% of the children who are fluoridated have less dental decay than non-fluoridated children. So it really isn't worthwhile doing it anymore. It doesn't make sense. And also it causes dental fluorosis and chronic ill health over a lifetime. So we decided in the Alliance that we had to go to law. We have to get the law either repealed or adjusted to bring the target level of fluoride down to 0.01 milligrams, which would be impossible to achieve. But because it's a developmental neurotoxin, there has to be a margin of safety of 10. So 1 milligram is the target amount per litre, and therefore 0.1 milligrams is what is needed as far as we're concerned. Unfortunately, it should be perhaps 100 times margin of safety, which will bring it down to 0.001. So we started thinking about hiring a barrister, retaining a barrister last year. And fortunately, we found one around about August, September. And she's been working really hard for us. And at the moment, we are collecting or attracting a large number of claimants who will be happy to add their name to the bottom of a letter before action or letter before claim.
Talk to me, just let me have an idea about who these claimants are, not necessarily the individual names, of course, but can it just be anybody who's had fluoride added to their water? Is that who you're talking about in terms of the claimants? Right.
Yes. Not only people who are currently fluoridated like me, but people who are threatened with fluoridation. And the number of areas throughout England has increased recently, including, of course, 1.6 million people in the northeast who are now destined to be fluoridated after a really unfair public consultation where the publicity was so paltry, very few people got to find out about it.
Interesting. And of course, you do have now a kind of precedent-setting US court determination, don't you, in order to be able to follow on. In fact, I think you sent me some information on, which I was aware of, and I had followed it, and it ended September last year. And they issued a ruling that, in quotes, fluoride poses an unreasonable risk to the health and IQ of children. That was a 7-year-long US court case, and that was the judgment. So that's interesting. That presumably are you using that as part of your case?
Absolutely. The most important thing about the trial was that it resulted in the systematic review by the National Toxicology Program of the USA government, where it was found the correlation was so strong that the higher the exposure to fluoride in the womb or in the baby's baby formula made up with fluoridated tap water, the correlation was so strong, but the more they had, the lower the IQ or the greater the reduction in IQ.
That's an extraordinary ruling. It really is. And I mean, powerful, obviously. And big shout out to Reverend Tina, who suggested you coming on our show. Thank you so much. And I listened to the conversation between you and Rev Tina. And actually, what I think I might already have put the link in the description. If not, I will put it at the end of the show so people can hear the full conversation with you, where you are both going into these topics. But there are some areas that you both tackled which are fascinating. Absolutely. For one example, you talked about countries being specifically targeted, right? Now, that is very interesting and curious. So UK, England, the UK being one of those nations?
Yes, the Americans targeted the English-speaking developed countries back in the 50s, and Ireland and the UK received money from American governments to sponsor fluoridation. Now, in 1955, 4 areas of England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales, sorry, not Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, and Wales were targeted for demonstration trials, which lasted until about 12 years later. But by 1991, there was only one area which was still fluoridated, and that was the island of Anglesey, island of Mon. And the Welsh Water decided to stop fluoridating their consumers in 1991 because they didn't get any guarantee from the government of being indemnified if anybody was harmed. But between 1955 and 1964, there was no formal fluoridation program. It was just experiments on the people without their consent.
Wow.
In 1964, Birmingham received some of that money from America and started to fluoridate the city, and that spread throughout the West Midlands, and only to then spread throughout Newcastle area.
I mean, this is some fascinating stuff. The other thing, of course, that it's not only water, is it? Fluoride is in other things. For example, food. I mean, they're putting fluoride in our food. I think this is something people are often obviously commonly aware that fluoride is often in toothpaste. Not the toothpaste I buy, I should point out, but I think people are commonly aware of that. But it's also in food, right?
Exactly. And the worst thing is tea. That's the Indian leaf tea, or Kenyan tea. Black tea is also known as. If you've got about, look, back in the 50s and 60s, perhaps, people were drinking tea out of cups. And now they're drinking tea out of mugs. And I heard about one person a few days ago who drinks 10 mugs of tea a day. Now, if that person lives in a fluoridated area, they're using tap water to make the tea. Your tea will contain 4 milligrams about. The poor varieties, the cheaper varieties, contain about 4 milligrams of fluoride per litre. Then you add your water on top of that, that's 1 milligram. So that's 5 milligrams. And the World Health Organization recommends that nobody should have more than 6 milligrams of fluoride a day. So we're very, very close to the maximum. Then, of course, in your manufactured food, using tap water, which is fluoridated, then you're topping up the 5 up to 6 per day.
Wow. I mean, we just kind of do it without necessarily thinking, don't we? Actions without thinking. And it's really important what you're doing, raising awareness of this. Hugely, massively important. So you're working with Kingfisher Justice. I actually also received an email this week, interestingly, on behalf of Dr. Zach Cox about the very same thing. And I said, I have Joy Warren joining us on Friday morning. They were delighted because obviously we want as many kind of hands to the tiller on this as humanly possible, don't we? And so what you're really looking for is people around England, around the UK, who could be part of this upcoming group legal challenge. Who would they contact if they are interested?
They go straight to kingfisherjustice.co.uk. It's a very small website. It has a registration form almost immediately in sight on the registration button. The questionnaire is about 4 or 5 questions, nothing too intrusive at all. I don't even think it asked for the postal address, just the postcode. And then once it's established they're either threatened or fluoridated, they receive a contract, which they sign. It has to be a formal contract because this is going to be an agreement between the claimant and the barrister. There is a small charge of £24 for the administration, or if they are in hardship, £6. And then that's it, really. They are agreeing, once they've signed the contract, to have their name appended to the end of the letter before claim, which is sent to the government's solicitors.
I'm just looking at it now. The letter will contain all the legal objections which can be identified against water fluoridation. This stage ends when claimant volunteers receive a copy of a reply from the government's solicitor. What is stage 2?
Stage 2 would be if there's no agreement between the solicitors and our barrister, our legal team, then we would proceed to court with our claimants if they wish to accompany us. In that time, in the waiting, obviously, there'll be quite an extensive waiting time because of court diaries are being a bit full at the moment. In that moment, we're going to be crowdfunding, which I've started last week. We're hoping to get quite a lot of money.
But this is something that will help us all. That's the bottom line, right? So we need as many people involved as possible. I'll get involved in this because I completely support what you're doing. Absolutely. You've been on this for rather a long time, haven't you, Joy? At least about 8 years, 2017 or something. I think Tina said you'd started this.
I started in 2003. Ooh. After investigating the issue for a year. I didn't really believe it at the start, and I was in a fluoridated area. I had eczema on my hands and I just couldn't get rid of it no matter how I tried. Once I stopped drinking the water, the eczema disappeared. And I've reasoned that the fluoride has been leaving my body through my skin, but couldn't quite escape because the skin on the hands is really thick. and therefore they set up inflammation in my hands and cause blisters. So yes, 20 years.
Long time.
22 years, in fact.
Ooh.
And obviously you can imagine that over time there's been so much more scientific information coming out.
Right.
And the laws are so much on our side, apart from the permitting law.
Why do you think government is so pro this, Joy? What do you think is going on? Because they've made a series of announcements last year where they were talking about the areas that they were extending it to, as if they weren't already doing it for decades. And why do you think that they are so pro this if the science is on your side, on our side?
First of all, we've never really got to a stage where we're going to be doing a legal challenge, so they think we're just puny. We've managed to stop fluoridation in several areas, but we've never managed to stop it. Apart from Bedford Borough, we've never managed to stop it, a live scheme. But, we've been quite influential, and the local authorities have quietly listened to us. The government is constrained or influenced by the establishment, the permanent civil servants who are there forever, and they are inherited by each successive government. And it's the establishment which is pushing this, including people in the Office for Health Improvement and Disparities, which is part of what was Public Health England. The person who is, I think, controlling everything, although there may be somebody else, like permanent secretaries or whatever, is Professor Chris Whitty, because he is very much in favour of fluoridation. And he's there longer than any government, provided he doesn't blot his copybook. Why he's doing it? Well, we have to guess. I mean, put your ideas on a bit of paper, post them to me, and I will do a poll and see what you think. I mean, I know what I think, but if I told you, people will think, oh, she's a bit screwy.
Probably not our audience, but I mean, the thing is, more power to your elbow, Joy. I know these things can be a bit of a thankless task, can't they? Sometimes they drag on and interminably, and it's like, when is this ever going to end? When am I going to see a result? But it actually looks now that like the results are starting to happen, and sometimes they are steep climbs, aren't they? What because this is not easy. What you're taking on something that has multi layers that we probably can't even see. People who are compromised, how it was set up. So you're having to undo a system that has been established. So it's not easy, absolutely not easy at all. Joy, last word to you.
Well, I've been undoing all the knots for 22 years, so I think I've plumbed the depths of accepting what's happening to us. The problem with fluoridation is that not only does it reduce IQ, it reduces good health throughout the decades. So you eventually end up with chronic ill health, which is caused partially by fluoride, but obviously there are other toxins in our lives. But if we get this deliberate toxin out of our bodies, then we can hopefully live a ripe old age without any ill health.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. Amy has one question, and I think the answer is no, Amy. But let me ask the boss here: do tea bags have fluoride? Isn't it just the water that the tea bags are going in, or the tea bags themselves? Joy, what did you say?
The tea bags have got fluoride in them because the leaves have got fluoride.
Right.
And the older the leaves, the more fluoride. So I really do suggest ditching the Indian tea and going for something like redbush, rubish, or herbal teas.
Thanks, Joy, says London Lady. Have a grand weekend. Thank you so much. Everybody, this is Joy Warren. She's fabulous. As I say, if I haven't already put a link, you can hear a much fuller interview where she's able to go into all the information that YouTube won't necessarily allow us, which is such a pity because she's a star. Joy Warren, everybody, from the Fluoride Free Alliance UK. Lovely to have you with us this morning, Joy. Absolutely lovely. Take good care of yourself. What a star. Mickey the Monkey said, that's why I stopped paying my water bill. I got you. Thank you, Joy. You are a star, Jan. Yes, Jan, you and I are speaking on the same page. Take good care of yourself, Joy. Lovely to have her with us. Lovely to have her with us. Right. Important stuff. I think I'm going to take part in that. Worth it. 24 quid. Absolutely. Thank you, Joy. Keep fighting. Okay. Thank you, Joy, says Lenticular Cloud. Before we bring in our lovely Warren Thornton at 10 a.m., let me have a look at some other news that I didn't have time to tackle. Let me just see, kids. What have I got? What do I got? What do I want to talk about? I think this is quite interesting. And I presume you all recognize this man. You may not. He is Marco Rubio, Secretary of State in the US, he's warned that the US is not happy with UK censorship. Now, we've heard these rumblings for a little while now. They've been talking about this, and but they're going to go even further now, and that is the US will actually impose visa bans on any foreign nationals it deems to be censoring Americans, and that potentially includes employees of OFCOM. Really interesting. And what Marco Rubio suggested was that the new policy could literally target officials regulating US tech companies. Well, that would also be Keir Starmer, right? And anyone in his cabinet who was involved in censoring us on social media, right? He's a psychopath post-Cole. I got more to say on him in a minute. And so I think that's going to be interesting that they've now made it a legal issue because, of course, it really does impact them. The censorship that's going on in the UK, the whole chilling effect that's been set up by Sir Keir Rodney Starmer is impacting US business. And it's certainly impacting, for example, on X, and X is obviously owned by Elon Musk being the first buddy up until Wednesday, which we'll talk about in a minute, but obviously still having, because he gave so much to Trump's campaign, I think it was in the region of $274 million, something like that. It's close to $300 million. And he gave so much to Trump's campaign. So obviously Elon Musk has had a large say on it. And what is going on in the UK in terms of our social media censorship is clearly impacting Elon Musk and the business model there, and they don't like it. And so they are now getting tough. But it's honestly, here's the thing. What a sodding joke. What an absolute sodding joke that Marco Rubio would be all over that. And the reason I say that is because I'm going to bring in a video before I bring in Warren. Let me just bring this in. Now, the fact that Marco Rubio is telling us that, right, that we are against free speech, but in America, he's actually threatening people who come to America that they can't criticize Israel. So they want to get involved in our issue of free speech, which honestly, quite frankly, I'm happy for them to. But they're hypocrites. They're absolute hypocrites. Listen to what he has to say. I do actually think Marco Rubio is a psychopath, by the way. I have to say, I think a lot of these people probably are, but have a listen to what he has to say. This is a compromised politician. Oh, actually, do you know what? The sound isn't coming up, which is a pity. It's a pity. I'm sorry about that. But what he's saying essentially is that if anyone dares to criticize Israel, they will not be granted a visa to enter the United States. But this doesn't actually apply if you criticize the US. So you can criticize the US and you're absolutely fine, but you cannot criticize Israel. And you cannot criticize Israel because the US is the Greater Israel Project. We know this. So Marco Rubio is saying that. But we know he's captured. We know that he receives funding via AIPAC. All of these things are taking place. So all I would like to say to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is that do not come here and tell us about our business when you are so spectacularly messing up in the US. Warren will be with us shortly. And just to say, let me just quickly move on. The Tates have been charged. I talk about the Tate brothers a lot around here. UK prosecutors say 21 charges have now been authorized against the Tate brothers. Let me see what these include. Rape, actual bodily harm, and human trafficking. The CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, said that it authorized the charges against the brothers in 2024 before an extradition warrant was issued to bring them back from Romania. Of course, the Tates, who have dual nationality passports, are based in Romania. They are under investigation in Romania. They face a number of charges. And I should say they deny all of these charges. And the CPS have said that the domestic criminal matters in Romania must be settled first. And the CPS had received a file of evidence from Bedfordshire Police about allegations made in the UK. Andrew Tate faces 10 charges connected to 3 alleged victims, including rape, actual bodily harm, human trafficking, and controlling prostitution for gain. And Tristan Tate, 36, faces 11 charges connected to 1 alleged victim, including rape, actual bodily harm, and human trafficking. And I think it's going to be quite interesting to see how this develops. Of course, it's all the usual stuff. They and their supporters say that the Matrix is out to get them. The Matrix is out to get them, kids. And Ella is not a fan. Not a fan. And Lyra says, what's this? It is amazing how this is about the comment to do with Marco Rubio and Israel. It is amazing how all Western nations shamelessly bow down to the tiny Rothschild fiefdom, which is an illegal state. There you go. And SMG says, actors for the Matrix. We're back on the Tates again. I see. I get your point. Right. Moving on. And one more piece of news before I bring in lovely Warren. We missed having Warren around here. He's back on X, by the way, which I'm sure he's going to talk about. But before we go into Warren, I just want to, is there anything else? Yeah, just very briefly. Most people, most sensible, intelligent, thinking people detest Sadiq Khan. He is the mayor of London, of course. And Sadiq Khan is not just the mayor of London, he's also the co-chair of C40 Cities. C40 Cities is a conglomeration of mayors around the world, and their aim is to introduce net zero all around the world. And of course, we know that it is a lie, it's a hoax. We know all of that. Sadiq Khan is a deeply untrustworthy individual, but he's now going to raise London's congestion charge by another 20% from January 2026. It will go from £15 to £18. The aim, obviously, undeniably, is to literally drive people off the road. We know that this impacts small businesses the most. And but they don't care. That's not what this is about. That's obviously why they want their so-called 15-minute cities. The idea is absolutely to take drivers off the road. And so what they will do is they will increase it with not just public transport, but really increase with taxis and Ubers. And don't forget, a lot of the private car companies such as Lyft and Uber, they get behind these. They get behind these policies. Of course they do, because they want to be the ones remaining on the road so people can't drive their own cars. He's a nasty little snot goblin, says Gina. I have to agree. Absolutely horrible individual. I think I've doorstepped him 2 or 3 times now. I must show you that picture, Gina. I don't know if you've seen it. And it's where I've approached him and I'm talking to him about cash and the issues of cash and money and finances. And this is like the second occasion. And he's literally like, he's got his head in his hands like this. And it's a classic picture. It's a classic picture. Sad git, Khan. Got you. Roy, absolutely. 15-minute cities are designed to control free movement of people. And all of these initiatives all work together. It's not a coincidence that he is co-chair of the C40 cities. Right, let us bring in our lovely Warren without further ado. Yes, Lyra, Snot Goblin is kicking off, right? Sean thinks EVs should be banned. And by the way, just quickly before I bring in Warren, talking about EVs, a number of people now have contacted me about the batteries that are used, literally just exploding. And it reminds me of when they moved over to vaping, the sheer volume of vapes that explode in people's pockets. There's no laughing matter. It's actually in my film, The Business of Cancer. And the same thing is happening with electric vehicles. You have to be careful. Don't insult goblins. I've got you. Boom. Absolutely. Right. Let's not insult goblins. But let's bring in lovely Warren Thornton, because we like him. And he's as far from a goblin as you're likely to get. Here he is, Warren Thornton, journalist, badass. How are you, Warren?
I am absolutely fine, Sonia. How are you?
I'm grand, Warren. You can hear how I am. It's Friday. I like Friday. Friday means after today, I can sleep for a day, which is absolutely wonderful. Lovely to have you with us. I said, you're back on X. What happened? They boot you off for what reason?
They did. I exposed Kaya Kallis and her funding of the Azov battalions and her links to an organisation called NAFO, which is basically, shall we say, an online hate group who go around trying to silence anybody who's telling you the truth. And of course, Kaya Kallis managed to have a word with somebody somewhere, and we ended up off of X for 2 or 3 months. We are now back on, which is absolutely brilliant, and we'll be obviously still telling the truth about what's going on there. I'm afraid the more you tell us that we can't broadcast something, then we'll very much go the other way, I'm afraid.
Absolutely. I'm exactly the same. It's like red rag to a bull, isn't it? When they say
Yes.
you can't. And excuse me, that's why I find some of the broadcasting on YouTube quite frustrating, obviously, because I'm absolutely wet. Well, first of all, you have to learn the rules. And if you don't, you're in trouble. But anyway, that's a whole other story. So what is going on in Warren's world? We like to pick Warren's brain because he's kind of like, as a geopolitical journalist, he's all over the place. He has his fingers in numerous pies. But I think I'd like to start with Russia, if I may. What is going on with Russia? Because I noted that you tweeted something very interesting about how they'll give their proposals for peace on June the 2nd at a meeting in Istanbul. What can you tell us about that, Warren?
Yeah, absolutely. So what they've been pushing for is this terrible Kellogg deal, which is a 22-point plan, which involves Russia going back to basically leaving Ukraine and paying 300 billion of their frozen assets to rebuild Ukraine and admitting to war crimes. Well, that's going to work, isn't it? I've always said you don't send a general to negotiate peace; you send a diplomat. You send generals to war. So this is all just games being played out, and of course, left, right, and centre. Rubio is another one who is behind this. He's very much working with the EU. This man, if you trust him, you are absolutely crazy. This is a guy who is bought and paid for by Israel and the military-industrial complex. Is an absolute horror of a human being, and you shouldn't trust him at all. And Trump really should get rid of these people out of his group of people. Now, what we have, Sonia, is the nonsense that has happened. Of course, they've turned around and said, Kellogg has turned around and said, "Where's the peace plan? You have a peace plan. You're meant to produce it and everything else." Well, the Russians have done it yet again because they turned around and said, "We're not going to the Vatican for a peace conference. We're not going to Switzerland for a peace conference because Switzerland aren't neutral anymore." Of course, they're going back to Istanbul, which is a reminder to the West that Boris Johnson and Joe Biden, at the time when they had the peace process in Istanbul, of course, scuppered that peace deal. So, of course, it's a constant reminder of what happened before. And the other thing, Sonia, that is very, very important is Kellogg has turned around and said, "Where is your peace plan?" Well, they're not negotiating with you. This is just the Russians and the Ukrainians. They don't want Kellogg or Rubio anywhere near these discussions. And very, very simply, Lavrov has come out, and we spoke to somebody who is very, very close to Peskov, who is the gentleman who is Putin's spokesperson. And it's not changed until you literally deal with the root causes. And if you have a peace deal, if you have a ceasefire, Sonia, what's going to happen is the people inside, or the neo-Nazi regime that are inside Ukraine, are going to attack the ethnic Russians in the eastern part of the Ukraine. They're going to attack them once again, as they have done 3 or 4 times, and it's all going to kick off again. But of course, once you have a peace deal, they can slide NATO troops as peacekeepers into the area, and of course, then that escalates. And of course, we've got Merz, who's taken over. Friedrich Merz saying he's going to give the codes to the Taurus missiles so they can fire them at Moscow and everything else. But this is all part and parcel of Merz stepping forward, because at the moment, Macron, who got the slap that was heard around the world, of course, and of course, Keir Starmer, who's got a bit of trouble with Ukrainian male models. So Merz is taking the lead at the moment to take the shine off of all of that.
It feels, it always feels like a bit of a soap opera, doesn't it? It's interesting, the whole stuff with what's going on with Donald Trump in terms of Russia and Ukraine, obviously, because one minute he's like pally, and with Putin, and then he's like literally running him down on social media, on Truth Social. And, I don't know what's happened to him. He's become so aggressive. What's the game that's being played here? Because I feel like it's a game, Warren.
It is a game. The West don't want peace. America literally want to slide out the side door. Now, they've got to make up their minds whether they're going to do another round of sanctions. Of course, the EU are already going to do that. Now, of course, America don't need those sanctions. If they have the sanctions, they've got a major problem because, of course, it hurts their economy as well. And the thing is, America are buying Russian oil, liquid natural gas and everything else. The Americans are buying that from Russia. It's being sold to India. India sell it to the United States, and they sell it to Europe at 6 times the price that it originally would be.
That sounds like a scam. It actually sounds like a scam. So what do you think Ukraine, how they're going to respond to this meeting next week, this proposal for peace. What do you think their position is? Because it again feels very theatrical a lot of the time with Zelensky. So it's very, very difficult to know what he is truly thinking. So what do you think their position is going to be?
Well, their position is going to not change whatsoever. It's going to be the same as Russia's. America are driving this. It's very, very simple. Kellogg and Rubio are driving this along with the Europeans. And as the Russians have said, why do you need to know our peace proposals? We're not negotiating with you. This is just a negotiation in Turkey with the Ukrainians. Absolutely nothing to do with America. But of course, here's America, who were the instigators of the war, now trying to play moderator, which is quite amusing.
As an overview picture, I want to just kind of look briefly at Israel and the world leaders' responses to it, because I get a sense that things are reaching something of a climax in terms of Israel. That I think that the PR, I think they've lost the PR war. I really do. But what's your take on it?
It's very, very simple. We got a communique a few days back that we published, where America had a private communication with Israel saying that they wanted to bomb. They basically want to bomb Iran, but they want Israel to take the blame for it. So Israel, of course, needed something to happen, because they turned around and said, well, at the moment, our PR is in the toilet, which it is. And then suddenly we have, don't we, a former IDF soldier, 2 people assassinated in Washington, D.C. And suddenly the narrative is completely shifted from Israel killing 18,000 kids to, oh, how terrible. This is two people have been slaughtered and everything else. And everybody went completely potty about a former soldier and 2 people who are right in with this Zionist philosophy. Of course, more than happy to go along with it. Were killed, not a problem whatsoever with that. Odd that it was 200 yards away from the FBI building and this guy was on an FBI watch list. Seems very, very strange. And then, of course, for 10 minutes, he was then standing there talking to other people, then gets arrested. Gentleman tries to hand him his scarf, because who will recognize you without your scarf? And he gets to shout out Free Palestine a couple of times instead of being thrown to the floor and literally handcuffed. It all seems very, very, how can I put this? The timing of it, Sonia, can't be ignored.
You sound very cynical about it, Warren. And because I think it's interesting, of course, because what we discovered was that they're 2 Christians. So I'm not sure how it can be called an anti-Semitic attack, as one example. But you do get the sense, don't you, from the American administration that Israel is absolutely first. The warning from Marco Rubio that they will literally not allow people into the country who are criticizing Israel. That's a phenomenal position to take, isn't it?
It is, but it's not wholly unexpected when you consider that Marco Rubio last year got $1.6 million from AIPAC. This year he got over $1 million from AIPAC. And there are only 5 people in the US Senate that don't actually get money from the Israel lobby. And of course, we're literally turning around and saying, oh, you know, the death of these 2 people. There are 18,000 children, and we have the rather abysmal and shameful Piers Morgan now changing his tact on it when he's been 100% behind Israel all the way. Literally, he is head of a charity that is Israel-backed. And, of course, we've also got to look at his ties with Rupert Murdoch. Yes. And then, of course, you have your Douglas Murrays as well coming out and saying these things. These people have been shown up for what they are, and I'm afraid the nonsense is, and the very simple fact is, there is no flag big enough to cover up the fact that you're murdering children, regardless of what is on that flag.
Fact, absolutely, and no justification either. I'm absolutely sick of hearing these genocidal justifiers where they go on and say, yeah, but Hamas were using them as human shields. Even if they are, it's still no excuse to bomb and rain, missiles down on innocent women and children, innocent men as well, innocent people. It's horrendous what's taking place, but I do think it's all changing. And I think probably the first time, to be honest with you, in my lifetime, in many respects, because obviously Israel has long held immense power over world leaders. We know that, but it's becoming so increasingly transparent. The fact that you can quote how much Marco Rubio received as one example is a perfect example. The transparency is there, and now we have to act on it. Warren, let me ask you about this pair. The bromance between Trump and Musk. obviously, Musk is now out of the White House. He officially left the White House on Wednesday. His role at Doge is said to be over, although Doge will continue. That is kind of like the Department of Government Efficiency. The idea is to cut waste. What are your thoughts about this? Because I don't think for a second that there's not going to be a big fallout between these two. I find it impossible to believe, because already Musk is already making comments about Trump's big, beautiful bill and saying that it isn't actually a positive thing. What are your thoughts about these two?
No, there's definitely a slight parting of the ways here. And the other thing that is really, really important to remember is that Musk has other businesses he's got to carry on with. Trump has come out and promised much. Elon Musk is sort of distancing himself because he can see the tariffs are not going to work. And of course, with the China situation coming up, that's going to cause a problem as well. Now, you also have to look at Musk on the quiet. He's not a great fan of Israel, although he's been to Israel. He can see the other side of the argument. So it's all very well to condemn Hamas. I can sit here and go, I absolutely hate Hamas for what they do or what they did. But when it then comes to criticizing Israel, of course, Rubio won't even let people in the country who dare to say anything against Israel. So Elon Musk, who is practicing and preaching free speech, is now seeing not only this and the bills and everything else and the tariffs, which won't work, causing a problem.
It is interesting, isn't it? What's this? Fake beef. They are colleagues, says Where Am I? And it could well be, but I doubt it, because we are talking about two people with not just giant size egos. Probably both of them are narcissists. I think there's only and I think part of the problem is obviously Elon Musk gave this huge amount of money, obviously, to Trump's campaign. And the moment that happens, you are then beholden to them, aren't you? I mean, that is just the reality of politics. We really should get this kind of level of lobbying out of politics. But I mean, it's kind of like bought and paid for, obviously. And you're right, his businesses were being impacted as well. Do you think that Doge has done more harm, or it's been a force of good and can improve? And could we, as in the UK, take tips from it?
We certainly could take tips from it, because the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office have spent over 136 billion on absolutely ridiculous projects just here in the UK alone over the last 10 years. But the thing is, the Doge has done some good, should we say, but the National Endowment for Democracy is back up and running again under the auspices of the Department of Homeland Security. And we have a major problem here. But also you have to remember that Musk, as an honorary government employee, can only do so many days. So that was coming towards the end as well. And Musk wasn't really ready to align himself. I think Musk, I know people might go, oh, no. Stranger things have happened. I think Musk might be lining himself up for a run at a later date as being president of America.
But could he be, though? Because he was born in South Africa. Could he? Would he be able to?
Well, one of those, if he becomes an honorary citizen, I would turn around and say it's highly possible. After all, Barack Obama wasn't born in America and he managed to become president.
Controversial, right? But no, you're right. You're absolutely right. I love picking your brains. Please forgive me, Warren. I'm leaping from one thing to another because you're just brilliant. I want your take on this. Obviously, this is Dan Bongino, and obviously these two men aren't the same. One was a podcaster who called out, power and authority, and the other is now the deputy director of the FBI. And obviously, most recently, he's been talking about how Epstein, did kill himself and all of this sort of stuff. And now he's also telling us that there is a video of Epstein in his cell when he died, and they're just editing it for us. What are your thoughts about what's going on in terms of Epstein and Dan Bongino?
Okay, well, let's get into this because this is quite incredible. So Dan Bongino turning around and saying, we need to know the truth for 2 or 3 years. Then he turns around to us and he says, along with Kash Patel, turns around and says, I've seen the file, Gov, honest, it's not a problem. So take into account, first of all, Epstein said that he had no wish to commit suicide whatsoever. Secondly, we had all the cameras turned off. Thirdly, we had his cellmate was moved out of the cell before he died. Fourthly, he's got a broken bone in his neck. How did he manage to do that if he tried to strangle himself? And the other thing that is really, really worrying here is every single person was fast asleep or doing something else. Now, all you've got to do, I know various people who have actually done this in various countries. If you want to get rid of somebody who's in a prison cell, you leave them alone, you drug their food, they fall fast asleep, somebody crawls in through the air vent, good night. And it is really, 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 really strange, because we had this nonsense, didn't we, of people coming out with this folder with the Epstein on it, going, you know, basically Neville Chamberlain's version
Phase
of Peace in Our Time. Yeah, it was sort of Peace in Our Time by Neville Chamberlain. Look what I've got here. And it was absolutely nothing. Pam Bondi has told us we're going to get the full story. Well, I kid you not, I've seen some of the pages that they're actually going through, and it looks like a 12-year-old has got loose with a Sharpie pen. There is so much redacted and blacked out, it is unreal. We're never going to get the truth. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, nobody believes you. If you're sending out a video, that will be highly edited. All we need to know, Sonia, is really, really straightforward. Who was on the Epstein list? Let's have all the names out there, and then they can all come out and they can put their hand up and say, I was there, but I didn't partake in anything. So all these people who did go to Epstein Island and were all on these Lolita Expresses and in the hotel rooms in New York and in Miami and everything else, they can come out if they want to, but none of them have. That tells you everything you need to know.
I think Greg hits on something that I believe has taken place here. He said, did Trump hire them to control, silence them? Of course, going back to phase one, that was full of all the MAGA influencers who were coming out, like libs of TikTok. It was those people who were involved in it, right, given that phase one. And there is definitely a sense, because it's quite funny to watch those kind of MAGA cultists, those influencers, because they are now finding themselves in a position where they're having to support what they've, as you say, spent years arguing against. And they do it because obviously dear leader and all that sort of stuff. But do you get a sense that these influencers have been brought in order to silence them? Because I definitely do, and I'd like your response to that.
There's no question at all. When you get controlled opposition, you also get controlled media as well. So it's one of those, isn't it? Come and look at the White House, how great it is. We'll give you access to the president and everything else. But you've still got to ask the tough question. If you're not asking a tough question, you are now controlled. And I'm sorry, but Dan Bongino, his credibility has gone completely by the by. And here's the thing that is really troubling for me. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for trafficking young girls. To whom? We have not been told one person who she was trafficked anybody to.
Yeah. Exactly. I completely agree with you. Christine says, I do love your chats with Warren, Sonia. I love chatting with Warren because he's just this mine of information. It's literally, you kind of just touch Warren, you get all this information that comes spilling out, which you don't often find, well, you never find in legacy media. You're an absolute gem, Warren. What is on your desk at the moment? What's really interesting you?
What is really interesting me is the American war hawks in the Philippines. So exactly what has happened. I obviously here because of the upcoming war with China in 2027, when the new elections in Taiwan will be held. They have currently delivered 18 missile defense systems, which the Philippines have paid for. And of course, I have told you before about the Philippines and the Chinese having, so shall we say, some tussles in the South China Sea about who owns what island. Well, all 18 of those defense systems are all going to be placed on islands. They've all got a missile range of over 200 kilometers or around about 250 kilometers, around 200 miles. And they're all being placed on islands that are currently being disputed by the Philippines and China. And they are all pointed at Taiwan.
Interesting stuff. Are you on air this evening?
I am, yes. I go on warrenthornton.com at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday, and on Sunday I'm joined by the ex-parliamentarian Lembit Opik between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m.
Lovely to have you with us. Very much appreciate it, everybody. This is the very glorious Warren Thornton, and you can check him out tonight at warrenthornton.com. Take excellent care of yourself, Warren. Lovely to have you with us today.
Lovely to be here.
Wonderful picking that brain. Absolutely wonderful. Take care of yourself, sweetheart. Love to your family. Wonderful. Thank you.
Take care.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Love Warren. Love Warren. Such an easy speaker. He really is. It's just glorious to talk to him. It really is. What do I want to talk about, kids? How are you doing in the comments? Thanks, Warren. Thank you. Lovely man. He's a lovely man, isn't he? He's lovely, yeah. Warren is one of the best guests you have on, says Wade. Got you. Well, not saying I completely butt it, though. What does that mean, Fred? Is this code? Cheers, Wazza, says Marcus. And Wazza, you know. Right, what I want to talk to you about. Let me see what I've got here in front of me. Let me see. Did anyone happen to see the other week, by the way, fascinating stuff on the front page of the Irish News? And shout out to Neve. How are you? Sorted me out good and proper. It was behind a paywall. And what it was, a front page story on the Irish News, which was Royal murdered by IRA, abused children trafficked to his estate. Starter for one, who are we talking about? We're talking about Lord Purvey Mountbatten. And I want to go into this much deeper. Hopefully next week I can get a guest on to talk about it. I talked to Colin Wallace. I'm sure many of you have heard Colin Wallace. I've interviewed him before. And Colin cannot currently appear because he is currently, he's commenced litigation with the Ministry of Defence over the way in which the ministry handled my covert role in Northern Ireland. Colin was absolutely aware of what propaganda was being used at the time. Colin was aware of has talked to me about King Cora, the child abuse, about the complicity of the British government, about the secret services. Anyway, he's now suing the Ministry of Defence, which is absolutely fantastic news. And I also had a back and forth with lovely Richard Kerr. Richard Kerr, of course, is again somebody I've interviewed. There's a long form video on my YouTube channel and on other platforms. Richard has talked extensively about being abused, including at King Cora, and it has impacted his entire life. And what he said to me is, at the moment, they are determined to delay my case going into court. But he said that he's doing well, he's staying strong. So I want to cover that in more detail next week. And hopefully I can bring somebody on to talk about it, because also, Andrew Loney has talked to me before about Lord Mountbatten. And Lord Mountbatten, of course, very famously died when his boat was blown up. And many people believe that he was on that boat and abusing boys. That is what many people believe. Richard is doing well, Gemma. It's really good. He's actually in really good form, which is absolutely brilliant. There's a CIA memo regarding Mountbatten young boys. There is, Jackie. And do you know who it was who uncovered that? That was lovely Andrew Loney, who actually used to be my agent and is an author in his own right, and actually has his book on Prince Andrew coming up this autumn, and he'll be back on Wake Up to talk about it. And it was actually Andrew who had uncovered the CIA files, which talked about Mountbatten's interests in young boys. Brilliant stuff. Pitchy said, Warren, best guess. Kiss, kiss, heart. Where am I? It is absolutely disgusting that these abusers are given titles. Absolutely, unquestionably. Andrew is brilliant, Rachel. He's brilliant. And gotten rid of the same way as Mr. Maxwell. Well, talking about Mr. Maxwell, I've been reading the book about Andrew Maxwell from one of our previous guests, and I must bring him back on. And he's actually an Irish journalist now based in the US. So I think there's lots kicking off at the moment in terms of the Crown and in terms of Ireland. So I want to go into that in more depth next week. But thank you, Neve, for getting me that front cover. Wonderful. Truly appreciate you. And obviously, I'm sure that a lot of you have heard about what RFK Jr. is saying about pulling the mRNA for healthy children and pregnant women. But what about the unhealthy ones? I mean, they're the vulnerable ones, right? So, but new advisor, C. Malhotra, is talking loud, and we shall see if he has the influence to actually say something. And what he said on social media is they will be completely pulled off the market for everyone very soon. Then an investigation while simultaneously undertaking research and looking at best practice to help hundreds of thousands of vaccine injured. There will be no real Make America Healthy Again until this is dealt with head on. What about Make England Healthy Again? What's that? What happened in there? Because we need the same stuff, which reminds me, Cheryl Granger, I interviewed her a couple of weeks ago about her work to do with the jab and to do with pregnant women. who they like to call pregnant people, don't forget, but to do with pregnant women. It's a long form video. I've been editing it because we had some technical issues. So I've had to spend quite a lot of time editing it so that we can all fully hear it. And hopefully that will be available on Monday. And what I'll do is I'll run a short part on Wake Up and then the whole interview, hour-long interview on Rumble. Make investigations late again. What about us? I agree, Em. What about us? We need the same thing, right? We absolutely need the same thing. Mel's birthday girl, Mel's says, when you think about it, the last 5 years has exposed so much. The system of systems is crumbling. And I have to agree. I think that we have entered a time like never before. The level of transparency that is now available to us is phenomenal. We can literally listen to, a director of the FBI tell us mush, and we know in real time it's mush, and we can comment on it in real time. No wonder they want to, close down our ability to communicate on the internet. And I have known 5 people who have died in the last 5 years, says Stephen. I know people who have died as well, including my brother and my sister. Horrendous stuff. Jan, I agree. I do think we are at this kind of like the end of days in many respects, but in a good way, right? In a good way, she says. And I agree, because I think that obviously in order to change anything, we have to be able to see it. We have to know it exists, right? We have to know it's happening. And a lot of the time is that we are kind of bombarded with subterfuge and propaganda, anything to take us away from what is really happening. Okay. So, but now it is literally available to us. We can see it. Darren, are you off to Bob Moran's exhibition today with brother and sister after seeing the live on Wednesday? Yay. Yes, we love that. A new era. Wait, what's that? Frankie, look up the Mountbatten Cecil King 1968 military coup plot against Harold Wilson. Yes, do. That is fascinating. They actually cover that in The Crown, don't they? It's absolutely fascinating. And then the Queen had to intervene, of course, because it was Uncle Dickie. Favorite Uncle Prince Charles, hugely influenced by pervy Lord Mountbatten. And actually Lord Mountbatten and his wife, both of them perverts. Both of them were kind of like essentially tapping anything with a pulse. And Lord Mountbatten, by all accounts, the younger the pulse, the better. As disgusting as that is, it really is. Cravel says it's the end of a tyrannical system. I definitely feel a sea change taking place, people. I feel it. The light will always win, Sheena. Yes, absolutely it will. Let's see what viewer Bex has to say. I do like reading out viewer emails. Viewer Beck said, I have recently started back listening to your show at the end of 2024. I was very depressed, most of it coming from financial difficulties and a very big garage bill. I can relate to that. I absolutely can. And especially when, you're like juggling money and then suddenly you get these kind of additional bills, and garages are usually them, right? But Beck's closed off completely. She said she was literally trying to get through the day. She stopped listening just because I did not have the space mentally to take any of it in. There are so many problems in this country right now, and it feels like mainstream media are not addressing it, which I feel leads to people feeling lost and starting to withdraw from having an opinion because they feel like nothing will change. We are living in a time where we're all walking a tightrope. Should one thing go wrong or you have to pay for repair, etc., the cost of services is ridiculous. Absolutely it is. Going back to what I said to do with Sadiq Khan, this is not just about them, obviously, getting more taxes by stealth. This is literally about taking us off the road. As I've seen quoted in the comments this morning, that the WEF saying, and that is, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Only we're not happy. So back to Beck said, when you scratch beneath the surface and really look, people are struggling. It feels like many of us, and it feels like many are, she didn't say us, it feels like many are turning to drugs and alcohol abuse. People are losing jobs, and out rurally where I am with this Labour government, we really are not seen. Right now, it feels like this country is broken. It is refreshing to listen to you and your guests discuss these things, because if you didn't do this show, people would believe it is just them. They have bad luck, they failed, but we haven't failed. We are just trying to survive in a country that does not see us. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, Bex. I really appreciate that. And I think a lot of people will relate to that. It is very easy to feel in an oppressive situation, and we are being oppressed. Our rights to assemble is subject to oppression. Our right to free speech is subject to oppression. And obviously there is the whole chilling effect of do not get together, do not say these certain things, do not discuss this. And as one example where it is perfectly legitimate for them to say, do be careful. And that is when you have live cases, right? And the idea about this is because obviously when you have live cases, such as we have with the Liverpool driver and such as we have with the Tate brothers, the reason that they say, be careful about what you say in terms of commentary about the live cases is because it can prejudice the case. And it can mean that the case can get thrown out. So that is absolutely legitimate within law, but they've gone further than that. And we all know they have. They don't want us to discuss squat. Right. That is the reality. They have completely, the powers that be have completely trampled over our rights. They know it. We know it. And we're seeing it day on day. And Bex, thank you for your email. I really appreciated reading it. I hope you're all right now, sweetheart. One line which I just missed is one of my clients said to me, she feels like the news is trying to gaslight her. I could not agree more. And I think there is a sense of that as well. There's a sense of provocation. We've talked about this, haven't we, peeps? In the live chat before about, and actually, you know, commenters have said to me, there is this sense that we are being provoked to react. We've seen it, problem, reaction, solution. And I think if we've learned anything over the last 5 years is we literally cannot believe anything that they are telling us in legacy media. And obviously, usually there's a kernel of truth attached to their stories. Absolutely there is. But it's a consensus media. We know that unquestionably. And we saw that again this week with the Liverpool driver when the front pages were all full of really what a nice bloke he is with a lovely family and a good job, right? And a posh house, right? Is they're trying to shape our opinion of situations. And it's not good. What are you saying there, Kenneth? The problems with the UK, quite apparent solutions, e.g. Oh, that just jumped. Oh, my God, I think I've just lost it. Sorry, mate. I was just, oh, no, here we go. For child abusers, he's quoting the Bible. It's no good because I don't know what the Bible verses you're quoting. What education is being fed to the children? Sarah said, oh, what was that, Sarah? I just reading that. That was interesting about Trump. Like or dislike Trump, he said an interesting thing early on and reiterates it. He said he will show the corruption and where it comes from. He didn't say he wasn't involved. Interesting thing to say. Absolutely. I don't think that they can keep the corruption hidden anymore. I think we have so many eyes on a scenario that it's almost impossible for them. But I agree with Mels. I don't think the Great Reset is going to plan. I mean, it clearly isn't. The whole net zero in the UK is literally falling apart. Ed Miliband is struggling. Give him a bacon butty, someone. Famously, he was pictured eating a bacon butty to make him kind of like one of the people when he was running for election. It's one of the ugliest pictures that you will ever see of anybody eating a bacon butty. And when I ate meat, BLT was my favorite sandwich. Darren said, could you get Chris Frawl on? I know Chris. I've talked to Chris a number of times, Darren, and Chris is always welcome on Wake Up. Yes, he is. Okay, Peter, what does that mean? What is Kali Yuga? Somebody tell me what Kali Yuga is, because Peter's saying that dark age has now ended. Lovely Warren. You're absolutely welcome, Warren. We love you. We absolutely do. People are starting to use their brains because we're all sick and tired of it, right? We're all sick and tired of it. Right. What else do I want to say? How was your skies yesterday's, peeps? How was it? Mine was an absolute mess. And lovely Sharon sent in an image of her sky, which was also an absolute mess. Let's have a look at it. If I can find a picture, Sharon, where's your picture? Sharon's in lovely Cornwall. She said she never misses Wake Up. Sharon, you have such good taste. And this is a photo that I took today from Liskeard in Cornwall. If I pronounced that correctly. Mess here too. Jan's in Cornwall. Absolute mess. Are we in Satan's small seasons? Free steamer, what does it all mean? Is this biblical references? Guys, I'm not really up on the Bible. A very wonderful, glorious viewer sent me a fabulous copy, which I have been reading, but if I cannot tell you what relates to what. So if you are talking about something biblical, I'm up for it. Just tell me more. God bless you too, Poppet. God bless you too. The Constitution is the solution, says the English Constitution Party. Marco took pictures and videos yesterday. There's a big theme with having an X in the sky when they spray. There is indeed. Thank you, Sharon. You're a star. Absolute star. Yes, you are. And by the way, I received an email yesterday to join the Illuminati. I kid you not. Now, obviously, this is, it's kind of like some kind of joke, but I'm going to read it to you because it's hilarious. It's from Sigalani Hugo Oscar. And it said, greetings. Join the Illuminati today to become rich, powerful, and famous and change your life forever. For the first time in history, our organization is searching for candidates for membership in the Illuminati among the billions of citizens on this planet. Have you ever been scammed and need help getting your money back? Are you having trouble getting promoted at work? Are you going through a difficult court case and need help winning? Worry no more. The Illuminati Brotherhood, with its political influence, has all the solutions to your problems. Please contact us. I laughed my head off. I laughed my head off when I saw her. I thought that was so funny. So funny, but of course, no thanks. Absolutely no thanks. We are going to be finishing slightly earlier today, you beautiful, beautiful people. I'm trying to aim for, if possible, around 10:30 at the moment, because my throat is still quite funny. It's still quite funny. Amy wants me to join so I can be an insider. They'd finish me off, kids. They'd finish me off, wouldn't they? Richie said stories in Bible existed for 20k years before the book was written. This is proven. Richie, I'm not arguing with you. I simply don't know enough. It's a crazy email, but I kind of like it. Yes, I do. And Chris Thaw is a legend. Chris is brilliant. He's one of those action men, right? I really like him. He's a good egg. He's a really good egg. And I remember when there was this balmy cop who was running around defaming me and claiming I was involved in trafficking. Chris was one of the people who refused to allow him to say that nonsense. Plenty of time for Chris Thaw. If Chris, if you're hearing this, you are always welcome on Wake Up. Yes, you are indeed. Right. And beautiful donators. I appreciate you so very, very much. Thank you. Ashley P, John G, Natasha, Kath, Fred, Paul had a lovely message from Amanda and John to dear Sonia, just to wish you a very happy first anniversary of Wake Up, with love and best wishes from Amanda and John, with a contribution towards Wake Up. You are stars, absolutely you are, as indeed is Celtic Wolf Witch. And thank you very much for donating on the live chat, for donating anywhere really. I do a behind the scenes video for anybody who would like a copy if they donate to Wake Up. Feel free, because I can't get your email address from the super chat, but feel free to contact me at Sonia Poulton at sky.com and I will happily send you a copy. Yes, I will. I'll happily send you a copy. Right. What else do I want to talk about before it brings me to, yes, this is interesting. So I take it you know who Sir Ian McKellen is, right? He's going to be fronting an adaptation of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, and it will feature only trans and a non-binary cast. I think it's going to be interesting if they'll even get an audience for that, right? So what they're going to do is, obviously, it's Ian McKellen, legendary actor, probably most famously for many people, The Lord of the Rings. But he is a long-time LGBTQ plus advocate. And what will happen is he'll be joining the performance in London on July the 25th. He's expected to introduce the adaptation of Twelfth Night. It's being produced by the theatre company Trans What You Will. It'll be staged at the Space Theatre on the eve of London Trans Pride. London Trans Pride. Marcus and Ian McKellen is very, very gay, extremely gay. I used to work for his chartered accountants. My first job when I came to London was actually working for a chartered accountant. I was first of all a receptionist and a secretary, and it was for very famous people, and he was one of our clients. Yes, he was. Stephen is just tired of it all. And the thing is that the spokesperson for it said, with mistaken identities, cross-dressing and declarations of love across shifting gender roles, Twelfth Night has long explored the complexity of identity. This production makes that queerness explicit, reclaiming the story through the lived experiences of trans and non-binary artists. We shall see. We shall see what people think about that. And here's the thing. Maria, I literally sense pure sarcasm. Like, it sounds riveting. She says, that sounds like pure sarcasm. And what's interesting is he's actually in this book, right? As indeed am I. But what's also interesting, talking about Ian McKellen, is he's actually featured in this book opposite me. Let me show you it. This is very interesting. This is Sean Parker, author, artist, campaigner. Sean has been with us before, but Sean is, this is one of Sean's many books, actually. I think, so there is actually, you can see that. So there's me. I'm all chopped up. It actually looks very much like me. I even chopped up. I can still, other people can still tell that that's me. And this is Ian McKellen. I just thought it was interesting that he was part of that. And Sean had chosen, for whatever reason, to put us opposite each other. Interesting there. And it's called Society. And it's actually a brilliant book. One of my favorites is David Lynch. I think that's brilliant. I think Sean has a really interesting artistic perspective. Very interesting. Society is Sean's 10th book. And it's his first, consisting solely of original paintings. And what you have is me, Ian McKellen, Johnny Depp. I mean, you know, Elon Musk, loads of other people who are much, much more famous than me. But it's also about kind of like radicals and kind of like alternative voices. And I highly recommend it. It's lovely. And you can buy it online and in hardback and Kindle. You just need to search Sean's name and input the word society. I will put a link in the description to where you can buy it. But it's a lovely little book. And I'm going to read you part of a review here from somebody called Ken Stringfellow. And said, humanizing art in a dehumanized era, says Sean's portraits of public figures, both abstract and nuanced, humanize those who are so often subjects of controversy, misunderstood, maligned. Somehow in the last few years, art went from courting controversy to expunging it. Excellent point. And Sean's work, tender and respectful, merely reminds us that all subjects are worthy and the stain of controversy should not overshadow a subject's or artist's potential dignity and beauty. I completely agree with you. And that is, of course, in accord with the whole issue of cancel culture and who's in and who isn't. But I'm well chuffed to be in that book. Thank you so much, Sean. Very much appreciate that. How wonderful is that? Milford said, cannot stand McKellen, so posh. I see. Got you. Nothing like Ian. Right, got you. It's like me. Art is so subjective, though, isn't it? It's whatever you see in it. It's like that was the way I felt when I went to Bob's exhibition. Bob's exhibition, obviously, much more clearly about the targets. This is more abstract in many respects, obviously. But art is subjective, isn't it? It's whatever you get from it. And actually, just going back to art, what I loved about Bob's exhibition, and again, you can go and check out Wednesday night show, is it's the attention to detail that they've done there. And it's absolutely formidable. And like literally the frames also often carry a message as well. It's wonderful stuff. Jan's got to go. Got you. Kenneth said little has changed since Shakespeare's day. Okay, got you. I see. I hear you. Right. Beautiful people. We're going to be ending soon, but I want to talk about this. First of all, you are your only competition. And the reason that I say that is I came across this meme yesterday. I often get inspired by memes. I think that they are very useful. And but this was if I can find it, I want to bring this up because I think it illustrates it beautifully. If I can find it, here it is. And I saw this, right? Oh, unfortunately, my logo is blocking it, but it's you versus you, and what it says underneath is always, and that's the dealio, right? People, they first of all, it is business practice to set people off against each other, because if you get people comparing themselves to other people, especially influencers, then that creates an income, a revenue stream. So for example, we know that the business models for people wanting to lose weight, as one example, and it used to be like the kind of like Weight Watchers, stuff like that, and now obviously they've moved over to like Ozempic and Mounjaro and the jabs, right? No, we know so very little about these jabs, but people are so desperate to lose weight that they're just prepared to be jabbed with anything, right? But that is because we are set up in a world where we are set up to compete against each other on a constant basis. And I think I think, what was it they say? Comparison is the thief of joy. And I think there is a lot to be said for that, because the reality is you are really only in the ring with you. Whatever you want to achieve, you are your only competitor. That is the reality. The moment that you allow yourself to be set up against other people, you're in a no-win situation, because the problem is you're constantly watching what other people are doing in order to be able to respond or react to that. Whereas if you followed your own course, saw yourself as in competition with yourself, and I don't mean by beating yourself up. Absolutely not. This is about improvement and growth, right? So competing against yourself essentially means that you're sort of striving for self-improvement, for personal growth. And this is by setting and achieving goals. And the idea is that if Wednesday's show was good, I want Friday's show to be better. That's how I function, right? And not in a way where I'm going to beat myself up if it isn't. No. As long as I keep up a standard, as long as I can satisfy myself, then I'm happy. Because I think that it's really dangerous when we get into that scenario of comparison. And again, I say that there are outside forces which are constantly trying to make us compare to each other. And they often do this with women. Women are endlessly compared in media, endlessly, whether it's this one is thinner and looks better, or this one is getting more likes, shares and subscribes. Women are endlessly compared. But I say, ignore all that crap, right? Because rather than compare yourself to others, if you just focus on challenging your own limits and pushing yourself to become better, then you are already a winner, whatever it is. And we are not all equipped to do the same thing, obviously. Some of us are equipped to chase politicians down the road. Not everybody is. So it's get in where you fit in, right? Who are you? What are you about? And once you know that, you can start to eliminate all the distractions around you and hone in on your skills. And I believe, there's a big drive, obviously, to get people off of benefits and working. But I don't think that they're taking it from the right way. What we need to do is inspire people. We need to inspire people, because while we have a system whereby you actually cannot take care of your family and your bills with just one job, of course there is going to be a reluctance for some people to work. Of course there is. We need to inspire people. And one of the ways of inspiring people is this is what I do. I'd go right back to primary school, right? If you put your children through a primary school system, first of all, obviously, the entire structure of the curriculum would need to be razed to the ground and started all again. Because we know that the curriculum was largely designed, and it hasn't been changed, was to stop the factories in the 1800s, right? Because they do not want critical thinkers. They want people who are samey, who are prepared to comply. And we've seen that. We've seen the problems with compliance. We literally wouldn't have experienced the whole C-19 thing if people weren't prepared to comply. That they were allowed to get away with it because of compliance, right? Whereas if you have more people who are prepared to kick against the system, they wouldn't have been able to. The masses are on our side, right? But I mean, people seem to forget this. Those who are operating against us, making us compare and giving us an awful school education, they are the minority. It's important to remember that. But they have set this up. The game is rigged from the get-go. And so it's really important to learn that as soon as you humanly can. And we know that it's rigged because obviously you have situations like private school scenarios where the vast majority of people who are in media and government come from private education. So that already tells you something. The system is rigged. And one of the things that I used to do when the period that my daughter was at school, I would always debrief her when she came home. What happened? Who said what were you taught? And I debriefed her. And then for a period of time, she was home educated and she chose to go back into the system. But what was great was that home education kind of broke what was surrounding her, that whole kind of complicity, the compliance and everything. Not that she was particularly compliant. She is my daughter, and apples don't fall far from trees, right? So, but going back to that, I would change the school system, because I think right from the get-go, we're set up in this structure where it's all about competing against others. Whereas what about a structure which looks at honing who we are as individuals? And that doesn't mean that we turn our back on society. Not at all. It doesn't mean we turn our back on community. It means that we accept that we came in this place alone and we are going out alone. So what is it? And I believe we're here for a reason. I don't believe this is an accident, right? This isn't just purely science, right? I believe that we actually have a spiritual reason to be here. And so what is that? And the more you compare yourself to people, the more you are distracted by what they're doing, not what you're doing, what they're about, not what you're about. Okay. So this is a competitive world, whatever field you want to go into, and whether it's the area that I'm in, which is extremely competitive, you must focus on honing your strengths. And if you're part of a system that denies you that, then you must do all you can to also educate yourself separately from the system, even if you are part of the system. Some people have no alternative but to be part of a mainstream system. And I get that. I'm not attacking you for it. Again, the system has been set up in a certain way where people actually have to go out to work and they have to send their children to school, essentially to babysit their children. That's the way the system has been set up. So it's been set up against us. And so we need more independent thinkers, more people to realize that you are your only competition. Right? The moment that you attempt to emulate someone else, it'll only lead you into this kind of like race of catching up with what somebody else's journey is. No, this is about your journey, right? Your journey matters. Your journey counts. What I often say when I have trolls, I often say to them, don't hate, emulate, like do something of worth, right? Because oftentimes the people who are most angry online are people who are not actually doing anything with their life. Right, for the most part, although every now and again you find out that a celebrity has got an anonymous name online and they've been using it to troll people. But for the most part, I think it's very unhappy people. Whereas if we were taught from a very young age about finding out who you are and pursuing it, it would be a different world. I think the level of self-satisfaction, and it would benefit everybody else, because the moment that you're happy, you create a happier environment around you, and that benefits everybody. Yes. That is interesting, Sneveron. Try to get through a whole day without having a negative thought. Now, obviously, what is interesting is that your mind can only hold one thought at a time. So do your best to make it a positive one. The moment that I think about things that bother me, I immediately move on. My thing is, right, if something keeps coming back and troubling me, then it needs to be addressed one way or another. And I'll do that, right? I will address it. Yes, synchronized soul, that is what happens, projecting their own unhappiness onto others. It's easier. Where am I? No, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. And can I just say, I think here's the thing. It's really hard when I'm dealing with anonymous commentators on the live chat, because obviously I'm not able to personalize it, right? I know some people, by the way, and I completely get why some people are anonymous, right? I'm not prepared to accept that everybody is anonymous for a positive reason. Some people are anonymous because they are cowards and they want to be able to abuse you behind anonymity. But some people are anonymous because they have to protect themselves, right? That happens. Like, for example, in campaigns. For one example, there are some men and women who, if they showed their identity in terms of activism and campaigns, they may well lose their job or something else like that. So those things are really, really important. Yes, me, Lynn, too. Absolutely. The excuse breaker for everything. Do what you can with what you have where you are. It does break excuses, doesn't it? Because the thing is, it's not suggesting we're all starting from the same place. We're not all starting from the same place. We're not all starting from the same place, which is why some people may feel more confident, for example, to use their full identity on the internet, and some people may not, because we're not all starting from the same place. And I get that. Not everybody can do what I can do, and not everybody can, like lead a country or anything. But we all have our personal strengths. So why aren't we using them? Because we're told to watch that sod over there. Gina, I get that. I have to protect myself due to cyber stalker problems with several individuals. So I use my first name, but protect other details. And I get that. That happens. And Milford, I am in no doubt whatsoever that there is widespread use of secret services online, which is why sometimes I really query some of the comments we get, because we don't know who they are. They could literally be anybody. They could be from the 77th who have stalked me before, right? Richie, love that. Yeah. Why is Shug thinking of shutting up? See how we are living. It's not anonymous, just my channel name. Got you. I do understand, Gina. Absolutely, I understand. Right. Okay, people, I'm heading out of here, but just remember, you are your only competition. Don't allow them to make somebody else a competition for you. The moment that they're doing that, they're trying to create a division with you. Imagine if we were taught right from the get-go to value who we are as individuals, what an incredible world this would be, right? What they would not be able to pit us against each other the way that they do. And that is what I'm asking. That is literally what I'm asking for. And but for me, I have a favorite quote, which I actually quote often, and I love it. And it's kind of like to do with this whole idea. It's short, it's sweet, and it's simple. And that is, be so good they can't ignore you. You know what I'm talking about, peeps. Listen, have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. I will see you on Monday as per. Take excellent, excellent care of yourself. Thank you for being in the live chat today, wherever you're watching us. I truly appreciate it, whether you're on Rumble, whether you're on X, whether you're on YouTube, or whether you're watching back on Spotify. Love you lots. Thank you to all of our tremendous, tremendous guests. Heareth endeth the first week, first year anniversary of Wake Up. Here's to many, many more. Lots of love to you all, people. I will see you on Monday. Be seeing you. Have a magical weekend, birthday girl. Take good care of yourself. Lots of love to you too, Vendetta. Take care. See you Monday, peeps. Have a great one.